On this episode, we attack, sustain, decay, and release. Welcome to Save Every Universe. My name is Alec Garcia, and with me is my co-host Robbie. Hey, how you doing, man?
Hey, great, man. I'm Robbie.
Glad to be here?
I'm just happy to be here.
Cool.
Just happy to be live. Happy to be able to hear.
Yeah.
You know? Especially for this episode.
So today we're talking about sound design in games. And the reason we got on this, and I'm going to try to keep it in my pants here, but the reason this came up...
You'll fail.
Oh, I probably will. is the Division 2's out.
Yeah.
And it is so good.
Yeah. We're not talking about how good Division 2 is,
If you're watching this on video, my pants are on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Even under the table.
You can tell, yeah. I mean, you just have to take his word for it.
It's a newscaster situation.
Yeah.
It's so good. But they released a behind-the-scenes video, which was really cool, and it was all about the sound design of the Division 2. And it was... I thought... You watched it, right?
I did, yeah.
It was super interesting. So they for the dark zones, if you're not familiar with the Division, it's like an open world loot shooter. I think everyone who listens to this probably would be.
Anybody who's anybody.
But there's these spaces called the dark zones, which are like uninhabited and they're still contaminated and nobody goes there and you have to wear your little mask. But the best loot is there because there's no people there.
In the game, there was like a viral outbreak.
Yeah.
So it's like a post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
I mean, I know everybody already knows.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
Well, yeah.
But the dark zones
this is
are
for
like...
that one person who's just too foolish to see the goodness of the Division 2.
The one person who's not playing it.
Yeah.
But the dark zones are like these no man's land, where all life has been wiped out.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, so in this it's like a 9-minute little behind the scenes deal. They talk about how they like flew to Chernobyl to like record audio like of the ambient noises of like what would you call it? A place that was once inhabited, but now it's like completely desolate.
Like
so there's factories and
yeah.
buildings, but it's like completely empty now. So they recorded the ambient noises of that and like moved metal around in that space to like get just those sounds. And, they fired all kinds of different weapons. They fired them in different spaces so that they could get what a gun sounds like in a small street versus a large street versus an open space versus an auditorium.
Yeah.
Like crazy stuff.
So if you remember, if you listen to our Red Dead Redemption episode with Dave,
we talked about that a little bit.
Dave talked about how cool it was, like firing guns in houses versus in the street.
Yeah, or in the woods or on top of a mountain or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, lately the new games are like upping their game.
Yeah.
Especially with gunplay. Something you'd think maybe, it sounds Big Bang, whatever, let's move on.
Yeah.
If you get the chance to watch this behind the scenes video, you should, because to me, as somebody who's like fired guns all my life, seeing microphones hooked up and all these cords coming off them was
and
really
like there's
weird.
all these people at a mixing board. They're like, okay, go, and they're all like start ripping off some rounds or whatever. And they're like, okay, we're good. And
I was trying to like the setup of that is mind blowing. They have like a 50 cal sniper rifle with mics shoved in all these orifices of it.
Yeah.
And there's some guy with headphones. Like, it's crazy.
And they said too in this that this audio engineer who's been doing this for a long time, he's like this has never been done before, or if it has, I'm not aware of it.
Yeah.
But instead of like recording gun sounds and then they just took all those files and then went and manipulated them later, they were like recording and filtering and adding effects like real time to get them at like the way that they wanted. So they would fire and record and filter and add effects all at the same time to get this really robust. And the guns sound really good.
The guns sound
feel
amazing.
really good. Yeah.
The other cool thing about Division specifically, I loved how they do the rain, and they talk about it in that video.
Yeah.
How like they did such a cool job of the way they recorded is it reacts to props, so that if you are near something, you hear the ping off a sign or off a car or the street or the trees, and it changes if you're like underneath something, and so they use like umbrella stuff and canvassy sounds.
And I had never seen this before, but it made sense, right? In how they do that. They had hold on, I have it written down here, called bubble space. It's like these little bubbles that like sort of, you don't know it in the game, but they show the build of it in this behind the scenes deal. It's like there's these bubbles sort of that are always with you as a character as you're moving through the world that are detecting and reacting to the type of environment you're in, and then the sounds adjust according to whether you're in a confined space or an open space or it's raining and what is the rain hitting, and it's
so cool.
Really, really cool.
If you look at the behind the scenes, they do show that like cut of the software running with all the bubbles.
Yeah.
It looked extremely sophisticated. Like, way out of my league. I think I was like barely comprehending.
And before we I took my PlayStation to my office like an irresponsible person, and I was sneaking in a little session before I came over here to record, and I was playing it through like noise canceling Bose headphones to get ready for this episode, and it was blowing my mind. Like it would start to rain, and you would hear it hitting a tarp that sounds completely different from how it hits just like the street or metal or a car or whatever. And man, really, really cool.
I occasionally play. I have like a pretty decent set of the PlayStation Golds, the new ones. And it sounds really good.
Yeah, it does.
All my games sound really good, but I've noticed, before we even talked, as soon as you brought up this, I was like, oh yeah, this will be good, because I've been playing Division 2 and Anthem, and I played Red Dead and God of War, all these on these headphones, and it's been blowing my mind. Like, it's been such a cool experience. Yeah,
so having said that, we've gushed now. I've gushed. You've gushed some. I'm proud of you. You've gushed on the Division 2. I'm proud of you.
I've actually really we can tangent here for a second. So I started with Division 2 and did horrible. And there's been some bugs and there's been some scaling issues, and I was on the receiving end of some of those. Yeah. I felt better knowing it was a bug, because in the game I just thought I sucked.
Right.
And then I started going online and looking stuff up and finding that some of the scaling is really buggy.
Right.
Or like when you upscale with somebody in your team, it doesn't always do it appropriately. And we were just getting smoked.
I was talking about it with Tony before, that it seems like I think it sounds like they've fixed it now, but like it seems like the output of damage was like scaling okay, but the damage coming in did not scale appropriately.
It's still a little quirky. Yeah. Like Tony and I were playing last night, and he's level 15 and I was level 7.
Yeah.
And so it was like, you are now level 14.
Yeah.
Like, okay. No. I'm still just blah blah, I'm dead.
Too squishy.
I'm hurting them just fine.
Right.
But I'm better prepared for it now, and I think they've fixed some things. I don't know. I've got different abilities. I've been changing it up.
That kind of doesn't surprise me, though. That seems like something they would have to... It would take a little time to dial in.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But...
So I was really mad at the Division, like, the first week, but I was trying to hold it back because you've been loving it.
Yeah.
And we have been fighting over loot shooters. You and I have been fighting over every loot shooter, and I was like...
You liked Anthem more than I did, and I,
you've been totally... Then you went back to Destiny.
Hot and sweaty over the Division.
Yeah. I was mad at Destiny. I tried to play it, got grumpy. So... I was like, I am really going to give this a serious shot, because I actually really like Division 1, especially the campaign, like the push to endgame was a blast.
And it's even better in the Division 2. The mission design is so cool.
So I've the last few nights have gone really well.
Yeah.
I think one of the harder things is just you can't pick your guns. So if you're always equipping, well, what I mean is, you're equipping whatever your best stuff is.
Right.
And sometimes those guns are not the best option.
It's like a sniper rifle and a shitty shotgun or something. Yeah.
And so I've had a couple missions that I ran where I probably should have put on old guns, but I'd already trashed them because they were lower level. Yeah. And then I was like I hate those Vector submachine guns. Hate them.
I heard somebody like really go out. They were like gushing on the Division, and then they were like, except for SMGs and Uzis, or it wasn't SMGs, it was Uzis specifically. Like, get those goddamn things out of the game. And I was like, easy, buddy. And then
it's just the clips are so small that I'm like, Frick!
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, oh, don't kill me. Especially when people are like,
you're
rushing
switching
me.
Or trying to go to your pistol. Or, and it's like,
The MP5 is really good as a submachine gun, but those damn Vector and Uzis, like, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've like experimented with my play style. I unlocked a new skill. I got a turret, which has been a real game changer.
Yeah, the turret, the assault turret, and the assault drone. If you're gonna go solo, that has been the best combination that I've found.
I've been using the healing drone and the assault turret.
Okay, that's probably not
still
bad.
Works pretty good.
Yeah, you can like really play the field though a little bit better if you have like you multiply yourself into like 3 attacks things. You know what I mean? It kind of supplements not having a squad.
I was trying to put a clan together. Yeah. And you need 4 members. And I need to petition Ubisoft because I think my turret
should count.
He's probably the best member of my clan of 2 people so far. He's better than the 2 of us. He gets more kills.
Would be really funny.
Yeah, he's badass.
Yeah, your turret should be able to be one, and then the little dangly thing you can put on your backpack that should count as a clan member.
It should.
I have like a little plush hippo dangling off my backpack or whatever.
Anyway, now that I've said that, like I've actually been enjoying it the last few nights.
Yeah.
And I'm not a hater on Ubisoft. Wildlands, I know we've said it, was like the most fun I've had in gaming in a long time. So I want to enjoy this game. And I've always loved Tom Clancy.
And I really feel like we've said, and I've said this before in the podcast, I think we've said it maybe, but maybe you fought me on this. I don't remember. But just that leading up to it, I said that they really stuck by Rainbow Six Siege. They really stuck by The Division. They really stuck by Wildlands, and they've turned all 3 of those games into something. Like I just knew they were going to bring their A game to The Division 2 and bring that same spirit of doing it right this time and supporting it in a way nobody else is, really, with online service games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still heard some complaints about the end game, but I've heard like getting there is so rich that it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying it. I'm excited to play it. I can understand why you're enjoying it.
The feeling of progression of like your guns are getting better and you're finding more exotic stuff and you're like getting more powerful. I am enjoying that in a way I haven't even in Destiny or anything else like in a very long time.
Yeah.
The way you feel like you're getting stronger and your gear's getting better is like it's so good. It's like a je ne sais quoi though. That's like, why does it feel so good? And I can't quite. I imagine it's a culmination of things, but yeah.
I know that one of the things that is really satisfying to me lately has been the I thought those control points were temporary. Mm-hmm. I thought they were just random events, so I was blowing them off.
Oh, yeah.
And then Tony was like, no, dude, you take them.
Yeah.
You're like taking the sector.
Yeah.
And once I started doing that, I like got this sense of accomplishment. It was like, I'm taking this city back. Yeah. And so I'm starting to find...
see, I've been going zone by zone and unlocking the control points. And then after you do a couple of them, you can start to see convoys like are relaying resources
that's what I
from
started
control
doing.
point to control point.
That's cool.
You feel like you're helping the citizens like get back on their feet and stuff.
Right.
It's so good, man.
So I hadn't been doing that.
Yeah.
And then the last couple nights I started to, and now I'm taking this whole zone until I move on.
And if you do that zone to zone, you will... The jump in levels like of difficulty to each zone you will get smacked in the junk like on a couple of them if you don't kind of do some of the side stuff and actually level up as you're going. If you just try to do the main stuff and burn through, it's rough.
I could see that.
Yeah.
So now that I'm playing the game that way, it's been a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And before we even talked about this, the guns sound amazing.
They
sound better than Division 1, I think.
Yeah.
Like, they sound really good. Because we played Wildlands, I've played the other Ubisoft games.
Yeah.
But I think this one is like, this is almost how I consider like Battlefield.
Yeah.
So why don't we use that? Why don't we go into Battlefield and other games that...
Yeah. So actually, I would say that the Division to me is not like the gun sound and ambient noise and like the feeling of being in battle. Battlefield does it, I still think, even though 5 is kind of on my shit list right now, but like overall that's one of the things they really do right is sound design. And you hear someone screaming over there and you hear someone calling for ammo and you hear someone screaming for a medic and this thing's blowing up behind you. Battlefield does that the best of anybody ever, I think. You know?
So what I kind of mean by that is like Division 2, the sound is so good I actually feel like I'm in a gunfight moving block by block through a city in the same way that in Battlefield I actually feel like I'm in a
They
war.
captured that feeling of like little small skirmishes in an urban environment and that kind of thing.
Nothing to me has ever hit me sound wise like Battlefield though. Like I almost felt like I had shell shock after the first time I played Battlefield 1. Like just the trench warfare, the sound, the planes going overhead. Like my hands were shaking and I was like, oh my god, what just happened?
And then when the music kicks in at the end or the beginning of a match too with Battlefield, it just like it gives it that extra lift of the iconic Battlefield theme as all that other shit's going on. Oh my gosh,
it's a lot.
It's like that's one of the best online multiplayer shooter experience moments. Like if you could capture that moment of when the music kicks in and shit's blowing up and the score's like you're pushing to capture that last point. They did it
it's
amazing.
Better than a movie because it's like you doing it.
But so much of what makes that feel incredible is the sound design.
So in Battlefield, I was playing the machine gunner, the Lewis gun in Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm using the Lewis gun in Battlefield 5 as well. And there's something about that, like, heavy machine, the hard hitting. But they've, like, balanced it, and it's almost got a tinniness to it. It's incredible. And the way the dirt kicks up when you're hitting... I don't know what it is, man, but the way they design the sound in those games like, actually makes you feel like you're at war.
Right, I would agree with that. The feedback too, right? Like the sound of hitting something too is like another thing. I think Battlefield does that well. If you're sniping and you headshot somebody, it gives you that visual or that audio cue that you pump. And the Division does that too. If you're hitting like a weak point, it gives you a little bit of an audio feedback kind of deal as well.
Battlefield does ricochets really well too. Like somebody shoots at you and misses and hits a metal thing, you hear the boom. Like you're like, oh, hit the get out. Like that I don't know that I've ever played a game that quite did the ricochet, bullets hitting things around you.
Or if it's a sniper firing a single high caliber round from like a distance, it sounds very different.
You can hear like you can hear the whiz of it.
It's like a very
the crack.
You just hear the crack, but it sounds far away, right? It's not the full bellied explosion of a shot. It's like the distant crack.
But
right?
you can hear the bullet whiz by. If it just barely misses you.
Yeah.
It's a terrifying experience. Like if you really take a minute to like let your brain, so like I don't know, for me at least, I'm really being shot at right now. Like I've had to like train my fight or flight senses to play the Battlefield games. I don't know if that's absurd or not. But like I've never been in combat or anything, but I've done a lot of shooting outside, so and I've always tried to like respect guns and bullets and be like, this is really dangerous. You just ricochet around, be careful where you're shooting, you know, things like that. So when all of a sudden I'm hearing those sounds in a video game.
It does. It gives you like an adrenaline, like fight or flight, knees shaky. Like the first time, I remember feeling that way actually when I very first got into Battlefield in Battlefield 3, which in my opinion is still the best one. But like there was a map on there called Metro, where you would start out in a tunnel. I think one of the teams started up above, but you were like fighting through like a subway tunnel, and then you had to like fight your way up an escalator into like a lobby, and then it went outside into the streets, and then you had to capture points inside these buildings, and then it went out onto a freeway on the other side. And so you got this transition of sounds of like it sounded very different if you were in a close quarters gunfight in like a small chamber, a side chamber in the middle of this tunnel, and then versus hearing your teammates fighting further up the tunnel, that sounded completely different versus hearing people fighting above you in the lobby. Like, dude, it's such a...
The people who do the sound dice, get it right. Actually, the Star Wars games are really good about it.
Especially
like considering,
right?
Battlefront.
Dice,
considering that they're fictional and not even real things.
That was one of my favorite. I never could quite get into Battlefront because of it didn't have that sense of feedback like you're saying with like the guns just feel meaty and awesome. I couldn't. There's something with the lasers that just like never. I couldn't. It didn't feel good to me, but the sound design was always phenomenal. Yeah.
If you're playing on headphones and you're playing like a heroes mode, or you're up against other heroes, you can hear the lightsaber echoing down the hall. Like you're like, oh shit. It's coming up with the way the like echoes. You can hear which way whoever has it is coming from. And sometimes your characters will put it away while they're running. So you'll be like, I don't think I hear a hero or anything, and then all of a sudden the lightsaber ignite. You're like, oh god! Like, I don't know. The feeling is terrifying. They do it so well.
And you were talking. I sent you this soundtrack to Celeste. And you were listening to that, and you're a big fan of like old school video game themes and 8-bit music and that kind of stuff. And so that was one of the things I was thinking about. Everything we're talking about right now is about using sound to like really create an immersive world. Like you feel like you're at war, or you feel like you're skirmishing from block to block in the Division, right? And that's more modern, not totally, right? Because the Division 2 soundtrack is like one of my favorite I love the music, dude. But a lot of audio design now in modern games is about immersion, right? Making you feel like you're in the world. I saw some really cool stuff about Horizon Zero Dawn and how they did all the world noises and the robot noises. It was cool, but and you felt immersed in that world, right?
The robots, the way they blend the robot nature in Horizon Zero Dawn is
super cool. And how they made those sounds and stuff was just really cool. But I was thinking about this though, and then you brought it up before we started recording, is the old school purpose of audio in games was more like to elicit emotion. Right? It was music, and it was like these little ding, like success, like you leveled up or whatever it was, and it was like they had to use things very economically to communicate like emotion, right? To support like the narrative or to support little gameplay mechanics more than it was like immersing you in this deep world kind of thing. And I think that's an interesting transition, I guess. Right.
It's less about like realism and more about, well, sometimes it's either emotion, sometimes it's nostalgia. Like any Nintendo game you play, if it's a running series like Mario, Zelda, they still have the same or very similar sounds. Like, you know what a 1-up is. You know what getting a coin sounds like. You know what Mario's jump sound is. Right? Those are so similar and haven't changed. And it's kind of like a staple in and of itself, just the sound. and it evokes like a nostalgia.
Yeah.
I play Final Fantasy 14 still, right? The new MMO.
And Final Fantasy is huge on that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
If you download if you have the Final Fantasy 7 theme for your PlayStation, all of the sounds are the menu sounds from Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I don't think I could make them if I tried, but like I can hear them in my head just as you're saying.
Yeah, those chirps of just choosing, like, it's so cool. And I think it's a large part of why I go back to that theme a lot. The Mega Man theme does similar stuff. Oh my gosh,
yeah. Or I was watching some, I can't remember, maybe it was Wired was talking about like the most iconic video game noises or whatever, and they were talking about how well made that the Mega Man death noise was. It was just like, because it always had this cool 8-bit soundtrack going on behind it, and then you would die, and it just immediately cuts out, and then
the sound cuts.
And it's like, it's so definitive that you just and you died so much in that game that it's like,
do you ever, if you're playing another game, do you ever think of, I actually sometimes think of that. If I die in something, I think of the Mega Man sound. I'm like, God, like in my head, that's the sound that should be
playing.
Even if I'm playing like Nier Automata and I die, I still think of Mega Man because he's also a robot. Man. Like randomly, my brain does these weird.
Modders should do that. If they're like the little
modders do that.
With the Mega Man, like if you
they do
get
that
the
on all
orbs
kinds of stuff. I'm just saying. Sweet. That's like what PC modding is doing weird shit that's very personal to you.
Right.
It could be some other game. But
but it's an interesting, that aspect of sound, and I think it still goes on today, is because what they had to do back then is like have things that looped really simply, and you were going to hear that over and over and over, like the beep of the menus in Final Fantasy. Right. And they had to have this thing that like felt good and was nice, but you could hear it thousands of times, and it didn't like grind on you.
And you didn't have like haptic feedback or anything. Right. That was kind of all you had.
Yeah, were those audio cues.
So you don't want to drive people crazy with it.
Yeah.
But now it's so cool because it like started like a economic need, right? And now it's become like a form of nostalgia or a staple to these series.
Right.
Like 14 still has those sounds.
Yeah.
You still run old dungeons or dungeons modeled after something from Final Fantasy 3.
Yeah.
And they put those sounds in it.
Right.
They put the menu sounds during a boss fight in the same little hand.
Oh, really?
Will show up and rotate.
That's
and
cool.
Go bleep, 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 bleep.
That's cool.
But what's cool, and something I was thinking about with Celeste, is new games that are modeled in the retro style are now invoking that same kind of emotion by just mimicking the old ways, right? So like the nostalgia, if I played Celeste, I would get nostalgic.
Yeah.
Even though Celeste is a brand new game.
Yes, because they did similar. Even though the quality and dimension of it's that 8-bit style, but you can tell there's more body and dimension because the vehicle can carry it, right? Like the memory and all that stuff is there to support that. But they're mimicking sort of that style. But it also has to be something that can loop over and over and over, and you don't get tired of it as you die over and over and over, because that's what happens in Celeste.
Yeah. It's just interesting to me that like they've now figured you can evoke that emotion still, and it now has the added weight of it's like all these old retro games have already laid the nostalgic foundation for them,
right? And
they can just ride the waves of it now.
Yeah.
Or like didn't Faster Than FTL, didn't that have a lot of those same retro soundtrack? Yeah, it was like a PC sound.
I don't think I played that one, huh?
There's just so many of those games now that are riding on the nostalgia. And they, I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah, no, because I think Celeste, like there's enough nostalgia in there of like this sounds like it could be a game I loved a long time ago, but it's so new and fresh and good that it's also like you want to listen to it now as a modern classic, I guess. I don't know.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, it is weird. You feel like you have your feet in two worlds with it.
Yeah, it's really cool that it works. And I don't have any problem with it. I just think it's cool that something that started off as like a economic need, we do it this way because we kind of have to elicit the emotion we want.
Yeah.
Now has like created a legacy so that same type of sound design
now
carries like an emotional weight to it just from the sake of its like predecessor.
Yeah, it was interesting though. Like even in that Division 2, bringing it full circle, that Division 2 video, they were talking about how they even in that were talking about like they're like, yeah, okay, so it's one thing to have gun noises that are really good, and it's one thing to have a soundtrack that's really good, and have those things in their own right. But then you also have to make sure it supports like the narrative and the theme and all that stuff of the game, and then on top of that, it also has to work like inside the engine of the game, and the music has to trigger at the right moments and not get stuck and not play at the wrong times, and it's actually it's not just like layering a piece of music on top of a movie score. There's so many other mechanics going on there that to pull off sound design with the whole picture of that, right? Like dialogue with characters or barks like from characters in the middle of action, on top of really good gun noises, on top of footsteps, on top of ambient noise, on top of the soundtrack cueing at the right moment. Like to get sound design right in a game is actually an incredibly difficult thing, I think.
Yeah. And it's gotten so advanced now. Before we wrap up, did you read that article about God of War?
I skimmed it. And
the sound emitters thing.
Yes, okay, that's the part I like really like read. Like I read that paragraph like 3 or 4 times. I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, the way they do sound, like everything in the world has an emitter, and so people or regular persons only have one emitter to
their mouth hole.
I mean, I don't remember reading that.
It emits from their like head area, right? Yeah.
And so in order to like help people feel the scale of fighting big things, they put additional emitters.
Well, then the scale actually was so large from like when you're down here as Kratos, right, and you're looking up at this giant troll, right?
Right. So they made it to where like the distance of the sound and the troll. Didn't the troll have like 8?
Yeah. So
like its horns, its hands,
and if it's hitting or grabbing or whatever, like it's gonna have different emitters from its hands than it would if it roars, and that comes from its mouth, and that's gonna have it depending on how far away you are. That's gonna have it a different effect, and
they did crazy stuff in that game. I was also reading in that article. Did you read about how they made the nightmare monsters sound? So they're kind of the floaty monsters that are just like an eyeball.
Oh, right.
And they're like, what does this sound like?
Yeah.
So because it was so wiggly and squishy, they used like twisted sounds of dolphins and otters.
Okay.
And then they mixed in owl sounds to make it this weird thing.
When you hear about like how they get there, right? Yeah. Like there was something similar with Horizon Zero Dawn. They have like kind of this giant crab looking thing. It's got multiple legs with a big shell thing on top. And they're like, what does this sound like? Okay, it's crab, so crabby, so it's kind of grumpy. And you're like, what the fuck are we doing here? But it's really funny to hear them like the logic of how they get. And then once you hear the sound, you're like, yeah, okay, perfect. That makes sense. Yeah.
But at first you're like,
this is crazy.
And then I think I told you this before, but the sound of catching your axe.
Yes.
Remember I told you it hurt my hand? Because I thought about like all the times I've swung a sledgehammer and an axe. Yeah. So in God of War, I don't know how they got the sound of the axe.
Yeah.
But my hand, they did it perfect. It felt like catching.
If you missed that episode, it's the why games feel good, because that was a good mix of like the sound with the visual cues, and it was like all these perfect snap and
But like I think I said it in that episode, like I felt bad for Kratos, like his hand's got to be killing him because it comes in so fast and the whack, like oh man,
dude, but he's a god. It's
fine. I know,
it's totally fine.
My hand hurt sympathetically
just from watching it over and over. Yeah.
And then I started winging it all the time and catching it because it was part of my combos. And I never stopped feeling bad for it.
Yeah.
The whole game, I was always like, God damn, it's gonna hurt.
So moving toward wrapping up, I think all I would want to say, like some of the videos I found were really funny. Where like this kid got the sound designers from Horizon Zero Dawn on the phone, and they were like shocked that anyone wanted to talk to him. And this kid, before like doing the interview, I guess he went in different chat rooms like when Horizon Zero Dawn launched and on Twitch, and was like asking people like, what's your favorite sound of the game, and people had answers, right? And the sound designers were shocked. They were like, first of all, I think it's really weird and exciting that anyone even noticed it enough to like put their finger on, I liked the way that sounded or something like that. So I think sound design, not just soundtrack, but like the whole culmination of everything that is sound design in a game is kind of an unsung hero. Like when you if you stripped it out, dude, like so many moments in games or so many game mechanics would not feel good or be memorable without sound design.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think if you're listening and you're not the type of gamer who's really appreciated that, play through some of your games that you're playing now or some of your favorite games and like take the time to think about the sound. How does it change where you're at? What are the little things?
Yeah.
Do you like it? Do you dislike it?
And look at the mechanics that you really like, that is part of that addictive loop of why you love playing that game, and pay attention to how much of that is sound, because I would wager quite a bit.
Yeah. We'd like to hear about it.
Send us an email.
SaveEveryUniverse@gmail.com.
You were punning.
I was punning.
Okay.
But you could send us an email.
I didn't get it until you did this.
Send us an email.
Your ear holes.
But record your voice.
And send it to our ear holes.
Yeah. At earholes. I'm just kidding. No. We should get our ear holes an email.
Thank you for listening to Save Every Universe. If you enjoyed this episode, please share us with a friend. If you'd like to support us financially, you may do so at patreon.com/Save Every Universe.
That's right. We haven't got the patrons to do the Crap Your Pants horror VR experience. So as of now, it's not happening. You can't make us do it. Okay,
We're taking our ball and going home.
But you would get an invite to our Discord channel.
Yes.
Where we
send you things.
And you can
send us things.
And we'll talk to you about things.
Or you could send us an email at, did you already say it?
SaveEveryUniverse@gmail.com.